A very important question to ask you. When you're talking to a hot girl, a girl you'd like as your girlfriend, or a girl you'd like to have sex with, what's that little voice in her head telling her about you? Is it telling her to do anything possible to sleep with you, or is it telling her that you make a nice friend? Well, there are six telltale clues that show a woman whether you're a nervous wussbag who might make a good friend or that you're fearless, the kind of guy she'd do anything to have for just one night. And it's important that you know what these six clues are. Because if you get one or two of them wrong, she'll instantly put you in the friend zone. And if you get three or more of them wrong, he'll destroy your chances with her. But if you get all six right, that little voice in her head will be screaming at her to go for you. And it'll be compelling her to have sex with you so she can claim you as her own. That's because no matter how young or old you are, no matter how handsome or unattractive you are, and whether you're rich or poor, a woman's mind is programmed to respond to these six things. They're the golden key to her female intuition. And having the power to control her intuition means very simply a girlfriend, a one-night stand, a fuck buddy, whatever you want really. Now I have to warn you, for reasons you'll soon understand, I'm only allowed to share this with 2,400 men total, and the countdown in that corner shows you how many remaining men I'm allowed to let in on this secret knowledge. So you'll want to pay close attention because this will be shutting down the moment that reaches zero. You see, if you're like most guys, then you do just fine when you're talking to sixes and sevens and women you don't care about. But when you're intimidated around the nines and the tens and the girl you really like, you get in your head and your heart starts thumping like a drum. You stumble over your words and you hold yourself back because you don't want to screw it up. And when you act that way, no matter how much game you learned, what you look like, or even how much money you have, that little voice in her head can sense it. She can sense your fear and nervousness like a shark smells blood in the water. And as soon as that little voice in her head senses your fear and nervousness, it tells her that you don't have what it takes. And then best case, you end up in the friend zone. Worst case, she looks at you like you just farted in her face and she gives you the cold shoulder. It makes sense, right? No woman is going to want to date or have sex with a guy who's afraid of her. The thing is, even women don't understand how their own brains work. So if you ask them what they think of a guy, what do they usually say? They'll say something like, he's so weird. Or, there's something about him. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm just so attracted to him. Or he gave me the creeps. Or there's just a certain way he looks at me. It makes me want him. Now, do these sound like logical thoughts? Of course not. That's because that's her intuition talking, that little voice in her head, and it's a very primitive part of her brain. And it's telling her one of three simple things about you. Get away from this guy, he's harmless and he might make a good friend, or you need to have this guy's babies. And I hate to tell you this, but no matter how much game you studied, you just can't fool her intuition. I mean, heck, maybe you gotten okay with women, maybe you've even dated some girls who you're not totally ashamed of, but, not the ones you really want. And maybe you've woken up next to some girls who made you wonder how many shots of tequila you had the night before. But in the moment when it counts, with the hot girl who you really want, the fear kicks in, you hold yourself back, and you don't get her. Because the most primitive part of your brain, the part that feels fear, is causing you to make one or more of the six mistakes. Now, it's not your fault, and you're no less of a man for it. This stuff is hardwired into you. But the guys who date whichever women they want are the ones who've defeated it. And other guys spend years studying game, and they still struggle. And if that's you, or even if you're new to men's dating advice, well, you now know why it's not working with the girls who you really want. She had you pegged before you approached her, and before you ran out of things to say, and long before you missed the chance to kiss her. Your instinctive fear gave you away, and that little voice in her head started ringing like a fire alarm. That's why around the girls you really want, it often feels like you're working for them. You get nervous, you get stuck, and you start thinking you need to say something more or something else. Your fear is kicking in, it's subconsciously telling you that you need to impress her, that you need to do the work to make her like you. But that's not how it works, man. And I have to confess something to you right now. It's embarrassing, but it's important. My name is Christian, and in 2005, I was the business manager for the biggest pickup artist training company in the world. ABC, NBC, Fox came to film us. We had a TV show in the UK, trained thousands of clients, and everyone thought I was amazing with women. And I had a girlfriend who I'd picked up using the same techniques that our pickup guru taught. And she was okay, but she wasn't a perfect 10, and deep down, I knew I wanted to do better. But even deeper down, I was afraid. Afraid that if we broke up, I couldn't do better. Because perfect tens scared the living shit out of me. And the few rare times during our pickup training courses when I would summon the courage to approach one, I would talk way too much. I thought I needed to do more to impress them, or I was looking for that edge that attracts them. But because I was still afraid and still making the six mistakes with them, I just get shut down. And even though my life seemed amazing to my friends, I was miserable. I felt like a fraud, and I sure wasn't happy with my girlfriend, but I was too afraid to leave her. And when she finally broke up with me, man, it damn near destroyed me. Because I knew I still didn't have what it takes to get the girls that I really wanted. And I spent 2 weeks on the couch. I was barely eating, shuddering in pain and fear of what lay ahead. And if only I'd known my future at that time and how easy it is to date the sort of girls I always wanted, maybe it wouldn't have been such a painful time. Maybe I wouldn't have moved in with a friend for 2 weeks because he was worried about me. Maybe I wouldn't have left that company in search of answers elsewhere, but everything happens for a reason. And now that I've dated FHM cover models, Playboy cybergirls, and actresses you've seen in famous movies, I'm blown away at how easy it is and how silly I was to be afraid of them. And I wish I could claim credit for discovering the edge that compels them to want you, the same edge that works on any woman you want. But that credit goes to my good friend Nick Sparks. Nick is one of the top dating coaches in the world. He's been in CNN, Psychology Today, you name it, he's been on it. And for 4 years now, he and I have been coaching men to get over their fears and get the women they've always wanted. The clients who come to us are often just like I was. They studied a lot of game, but they're not getting the women they really want, and they're looking for that edge. But rather than teaching them more game, Nick began to give them less. When he's out at the bar, leaning over a client's shoulder and whispering the one thing the client needs to get the girl, Nick can't be giving complicated instructions, so for 3 years, Nick's coaching got simpler and simpler. He focused on the fewest things possible that got clients the girls who they really wanted. And that's how he discovered to speak directly to that little voice inside of a woman's head. There's no lightning bolt strike, no divine inspiration. No, Nick just started watching for those make or break moments when a client had to show a girl he was fearless. If the client did what Nick said and showed he was fearless, the girl would open right up and start working for him. And if the client got it wrong and revealed his fear, the girl would shut down. We soon realized that this was the edge that every guy was looking for, fearlessness. It's not about doing more and trying to impress her because you're afraid or feel like you're bothering her. It's about doing less and getting her to impress you simply by getting 6 simple things right that show her you're fearless. It's that confident little voice in your head telling the curious little voice in her head, you're mine. That's the edge that makes girls want you, that compels them to sleep with you, and that gets them to obsess over you. So whether you've already tried studying most of the men's dating advice out there, or you tried doing stuff like buying nice watches or luxury cars or taking women on expensive dates, or you've just been frustrated that you don't understand women and you don't know what the hell it's going to take to finally get one who you want, well, if they're not banging down your door, blowing up your phone, and begging you to sleep with them, then it's no longer any secret why. Because around the women you really like, your fear is causing you to do stuff that turns them off. That's the harsh, no bullshit truth. I had to accept it. Our clients had to accept it. And if you can man up and accept that your fear is holding you back from dating and sleeping with the girls you really want, then you're about 100 times closer to getting those girls than you were just a few minutes ago. In fact, if you've been hoping that the stuff that everyone else teaches would get you the girl you really want, then you've been trying to solve the wrong problem. You're forcing yourself to struggle and suffer for no good reason. But here's what's very, very exciting. When you finally learn how to bypass her logical brain and you have the power to speak directly to that little voice in her head, nothing else really matters. And all the stuff that magazines and pickup artists and everyone else says to do, like, spending a lot of money on a nice date, memorizing complicated pickup techniques, or, being yourself, you're welcome to do it if you want, but that's not what actually makes girls want you. It's not the stuff that gets you laid whenever you want. And for most guys, they think the answer is somewhere else, learning something funny or interesting to say to impress the girl, or a secret trick to turn her on. And the more that they like a girl, the more their fear creeps in and the more unnatural they act. Let me give you an example. Pick a girl who you think is really, really hot. Could be someone you know, could be a Victoria's Secret model, someone you think is out of your league. You got her? This should be a girl who makes you kind of nervous. Now, don't be shy here, because the hotter she is to you, the more that this example is actually going to help you get her or someone like her in the future. So now you got her. I want you to imagine that you're at a party and you see her from across the room, but she doesn't see it yet. You see her there? Okay, now if you're a normal human being, your pulse begins to increase, you feel some butterflies in your stomach, and you begin to think the following thoughts. Oh my God, she's so hot. What should I say to her? Would I be bothering her? I really want to meet her. Only there was something certain to say that would make her like me. And in that moment, you already lost her, because you're in your head and you're making yourself more and more nervous, and you're going to act unnatural. And anything you've learned, any line routine, any inner game work you've done, it's all out the window at this point, man. Your fear is already taken over. And then she notices you, and she makes eye contact with you, and she's practically looking into you, and that little voice in her head is trying to figure you out. So she starts walking your way, and as she arrives, she's still looking right into you. She asks you where the bathroom is, and you respond to her. Now, when she walks away, does that little voice in her head say, do everything you can to get this guy into bed? Or is she disappointed by another guy who wilted under her gaze? Or even worse, did she think, what a weirdo? Now let me clue you into something that totally changed my game with women and changes the lives of everyone who learns it. It's little moments like this that make it or break it. Look, a hot woman is not expecting you to impress her with the best game in the world. She's using her female intuition to figure you out. And this is why a guy who learns this stuff can attract women with nothing more than eye contact. This was a life-changing revelation for me. I used to have terrible social anxiety. I couldn't even make eye contact with most pretty girls. And then once I began to learn game, I'd blow it because I was still afraid and covering up that fear with the tricks I'd learned. And in moments like I just described, I totally failed the test. It wasn't until Nick unearthed these 6 mistakes and the things that naturals do instead that everything clicked for me. And what's even crazier is that every other guy we see who does well with women gets the same 6 things right. Sure, they all think it's a different reason they're doing well, but I can promise that if they're actually having a lot of sex, they are getting this stuff right. And the guys we see struggling for years, working with coach after coach, spending thousands of dollars and struggling with self-doubt and thinking there's something wrong with them, that couldn't be further from the truth. It's just that they're still making these mistakes no matter how much game they've learned. But once you learn this material, man, results are instant. Expecting to do well with women without this stuff, it's like trying to make soup without water or cream. You can get almost everything right, but it obviously won't be soup. You'd be frustrated and annoyed. It seems like you're really far away from getting the results you want, but 1 or 2 simple changes are all it's going to take to finally get what you've been looking for this whole time. And man, when everything comes together and you just get these 6 things right, women start treating you differently. Their female intuition tells them that you're an insider, the sort of guy who's fearless around women because you've been doing well with them your whole life. All of a sudden, you become the guy who they work for rather than working for them. You sit back, you chill out, and you let her do all the work to land this guy who her intuition is telling her to go for. And hint that is you once you learn this stuff. And yes, this goes double for a really hot girl because it's so rare that she meets a guy who doesn't completely wilt under her gaze or act like a total idiot around her. So when that little voice in her head tells her to go after you, she works even harder than the average girl. For the 9s and the 10s, coming across a guy who gets all 6 things right is like a comic book collector finding the first issue of Spider-Man. They know it's out there, they've been desperately looking for it, so when they unexpectedly stumble upon it, they will do everything they can to get their fanatical hands on it and make it their own. That's been the exact experience of our high-priced coaching clients. For example, when he learned that we were about to start selling Fearless, one of our clients wrote this: "Sup, Nick? Congrats on kicking off Fearless. Best experience of my life by far. You've worked hard and deserve every ounce of praise and accolade for it." And Ethan, who's a computer programmer from Boston, he wrote this in a review of his coaching with us, and I've plucked this right from our forum. He said, "I took the Fearless Bootcamp with Nick in October of 2010. There's a point when telling the truth begins to sound like bragging, where I feel my roommate's envy as I return from walking another girl out to a waiting cab. I have a to-do list on my phone to keep track of girls in rotation, and a codified system in my contacts for filtering by level of intimacy. I vaguely remember what it felt like to struggle, to feel lost in a party, clutching a red Solo cup, wishing I could just go home. How long ago was that? It seems like a lifetime, but there's no point in indulging the past, and there's no point in denying the present. I've become a player, and an especially covert one at that. This, as they say, is only the beginning." And Nick and Ethan aren't alone. That was also the experience of the 20 guys who paid up to $7,400 to attend a private, closed-door seminar where Nick revealed the secrets of how to be fearless. And I want you to hear what some of these guys had to say, too.
This is a permanent solution.
6 simple actions that I feel like I can go home right now and put into action and start to get, the results that I've been looking for a long time.
The actual action steps regular guys can take, I think it's the best thing you could possibly do.
The stuff that naturals aren't scared of doing.
It's not a whole wealth of information that you kind of lose yourself in. It's very, very actionable.
One system that was really uncomplicated and kind of everything you need to know.
Kind of like breaking down the matrix.
Kind of at the moment in.
You answered questions I didn't even know I had.
Eye-opening, mind-blowing.
I thought it was fantastic. It's just what I needed.
Feeling less pressure. Ironically, that actually has me feeling more excited to approach people and more excited to engage conversations.
Much less pressure when you're approaching people.